Good morning, all. It's me, Arlene J. Ramsey, your favorite self wealth mentor, and now civil and divorce and family court mediator here. I'm going to give you all a few seconds to come on in. We have a great topic today. Place your comments. Let's discuss. So, for those of you who know, I love salsa water. So today I'm going to have Saratoga. Okay. I've had my coffee already. I like to do intermittent fasting, which means that I don't eat breakfast until after 11 o'clock in the morning. So, listen, today's topic: patriarchy failed. Will matriarchy work? Do you think a matriarchal system will work? So, I'm going to tell you why I think a matriarchal system will not work. Hmm. So, with the world and society, I see that there's a pattern of either this or that. And I don't think society or people realize that taking on that thought process only allows room, and I want to try to not speak in absolute, but it allows room for the same type of system to be in play, but just a change of exchange of hands, right? So patriarchy is failing us. We see it. Matriarch, a matriarchal system, in my opinion, will fail us as well. Now, here's why patriarchy fails us, right? A lot, we've learned that patriarchy predominantly while women are kept out of those positions of power. Yes? Okay. Here's what I think about the system. And I said this on a previous video. Excuse me. The patriarchal system is upheld by men that have personality disorders. By now, people are educating themselves on narcissism, antisocial personality disorder, the dark triad, psychopathy, you name it. And of course, no two person or people are alike. And anything concerning mental health and one's personality is on a spectrum, right? However, when we look at people who are in positions of power and the things that they do, for one, lacking of empathy, for two, exploitation, for three, manipulation, getting their way at the expense of other people, taking a joy and in inflicting pain on other people or oppressing other people, these types of things and tactics, these craft, and they're very crafty at what they do, right? These types of structures that are in play are done predominantly by people that have antisocial personality disorders, and they're great at doing these things because these are the personality traits and the behaviors that goes along with these personality disorders, right? um, Hence, matriarch women, if we exchange from patriarchy to matriarchy, that only states or tells me that women that have the same personality disorders will be vying for those positions of leadership, which means that it is going to be the same type of tactics, the same type of play, but it will look different because women do things different to men, of course, that we know. However, that's not going to be healthy for society. So let me give you a list as to why that's not going to be healthy for society, right? I wrote these things down. Okay, so number one, women are in survival mode within this patriarchal system. What I mean by that is that this system, patriarchy, has been in existence for how many years? Women are groomed and are in survival mode. They're thinking with an internalized misogynistic point of view. So everything that women do, although they're women, it's with the thought process of how to come out on top, or how to be successful within a man's structure or a man's system. That creates unhealthy behaviors on and an unhealthy thought process of how women view themselves and how women view other women. That's just it. The same way that we find that men pit women against each other, and put women in positions to compete for love and to compete where there should not be any competition. Women take on that same thought process, and they do the very same to each other, because they think that that's the way to go. So in that, there is no way a matriarchal system will be healthy for society unless women, this nation, this world of women, go through a whole process of deprogramming themselves and then reprogramming. And how long will you think that will take? Right? We're talking about people that have been taught and groomed to think and behave the way that they do. Now, I'm not saying that, all of us think and behave that way, but for the most part, many do. However, if we're going to say that we want to switch hands and make this a matriarchal system, there isn't enough women in society who think with a balanced scale. And because people with antisocial personality disorders vie for these positions of leadership, they will do anything: smear campaigns, lie on people, assassinate people's character, manipulate anything to gain those positions of leadership. The other thing is that people with antisocial personality and cluster B personality disorders, they know what people like. They appeal to the feel good section of the human being. They appeal to the dopamine, right? So people like to have fun, people like to laugh, people love a good time. These are the things that people with social personality disorders appeal to. So they know that it is easier for you to like them if they show you a good time. And since people, go by likability, especially women love likability politics. When you like someone, or when women like someone, they tend to vie for that person. They don't check to see if that person would be the best leader, but they would put someone in position that make them laugh or that gave them a good time. And that's a no-no, right? Another reason why matriarchal system won't work is women constantly compete with and compare themselves to other women, and they do this for destructive reasons, right? So what I mean by that, and listen, women, you can get upset with me for the things that I'm saying, but it is the truth, right? These are the things that women don't talk about. They pretend when they kiki kaka and, hey, how you doing, girl and sister, and you're so cute, I like your hair and all. But that's not um it's not a trustworthy thing. It's what women do to get close to other women. But let's look at how women treat other women that they think are beautiful, creative, have a nice person, whatever it is that makes a woman stands out and gain attention. Look at how that woman is treated by the majority, right? So some of you will say, well, Arlene, why is that? That's not important. Like, why are you talking about? We're talking about leadership in a patriarchal system, and you're talking about, look, okay, here's why that is important, right? Those women who are considered to be universally beautiful or gain attention predominantly or most of the times when they're in the room, many of them have leadership qualities. Many of them are intelligent. Many of them can lead a nation, right? But since women are insecure and are easily intimidated by the beauty or the nature of other women who seem to stand out, the majority of those women will automatically align themselves against the woman who stands out, right? So here's what I mean by that. Right now, and this has been happening. This is not a new thing. But if you go in most offices, you may see just average looking women. And you may say that I'm average and it's fine, right? But let's just keep it what it is. Let's keep it here for what we're speaking about. If you go into the average working environment, you may see average looking women. And you know why that is? Because I used to work in corporate. That is because a lot of beautiful women, whether you have a beautiful voluptuous shape, a nice personality, you keep your hair done, you're great at your job, you're a superstar. See, women that stand out are often bullied on the job. A lot of great looking women have been pushed out of their jobs by other women because they're constantly bullied. Workplace bullying is ridiculous. Hence why you see a lot of women going into construction, trucking, and things like that. And men may think that women are trying to take their jobs, and women are not keeping it real. What women are saying is that we can do anything a man can do, but let's keep it real. Many of you are going into these jobs that were predominantly male roles because it is hard for you to survive. You're barely surviving in corporate America, much less thrive. But it is hard for you to thrive in your regular working environment. And because you just want to take home a paycheck and pay your bills and take care of your children, you have come resolved to the thought process that this is unhealthy for you to continue to work in these environments. Women push out other women that they deem to be beautiful or whatever it is about that woman that makes her stand out, makes her unique. She will be attacked. Therefore, a matriarchal system will not work for society because that very same woman that many women vie against may have great resolve for our society, but she will not be given the opportunity. So what that looks like so what I'm saying is, if a matriarchal system is ever into play, I guarantee that you will see many of the voluptuous women and the women that are unique, they will not have dignified positions, not even on a job, not even in leadership. I guarantee you that other women that do not have what is considered to be uniqueness about them will ensure that unique women are filling boxes, doing jobs that they don't want to do. And so we're really not here to create a system to create apply a system that will allow more frustration for women than women are already dealing with today. It's already happening today. We don't need a matriarchal system to create more of that type of environment for women. Women just need to understand that all of us are not the same. We cannot help the way we were born, right? The way we came out is the way we came out. Women need to learn how to find their beauty, find what makes them unique, and lay on that and expound on what it is that they're trying to do in this world and in their society. And there is where we will be great, right? Another reason why we cannot have a matriarchal system, because of this same mentality, mothers and other female caretakers ruin young girls while they're raising them. Many women have been abused and ruined in the household before they reach the job market or attempt to gain any leadership position. So, we're ruining possibilities before we even realize that these possibilities exist, right? And these are things that are not talked about enough. Okay. Women are riddled with envy and jealousy, right? As we all know, many women have been set up by women who call themselves their friends, right? You've been set up to either been sexually assaulted, some have been unalived, some have been fired from their jobs, some have experienced have had near death experiences. Oftentimes, women wait until they're on vacation to try to do things or put the woman that they envy in harm's way. All of these things are happening now. What makes any of you think that a matriarchal system will change any of that? Right now, some of you may say, okay, Arlene, but patriarchy is terrible too, and men have been doing the things. Well, I understand that. I understand that, which is why patriarchy has failed us. But what I am saying is that we already see the atrocious things that women do to each other now. There is no reason to implement a system that will give women the green light to just make them think it is okay to do that, right? It is irresponsible to even discuss a matriarchal system without discussing the nature of women. Women are like animals, right? The other thing is this: women deal with this likability politics. So if they don't like you, they're automatically vying and aligning against you, right? Leaders are not here to be liked. How many leaders do we know in the world that when they first came about, people didn't like them because they were misunderstood? Many leaders are way ahead of their time. So oftentimes, conversing with the average person, there was no connection to the average person, right? But it doesn't mean that that person wasn't a great leader in the making. As we see, many of them became great leaders. That's another thing that women don't understand. Women don't have intuitive, or let me not say intuitive. They don't have a mentality that an open mind to say, listen, I don't relate to this person, but this person seems to be onto something. They're catching on to things that I'm not catching on. Maybe there's a bigger purpose for this person. They don't have that kind of mentality when it comes to other women. And partly why is because women are insecure and they also are easily intimidated. There's a lot of they're run by fear. So anytime a woman is strict and righteous, she's also not going to be liked, right? By the majority of women. And don't let that woman be visibly attractive or have a voluptuous shape, like I've mentioned earlier. Don't let this woman have anything unique about her that makes her stand out. She will not be respected to be in any position of leadership. Now, let's look at the women that are in leadership positions in the world today. Those who are at the White House throughout this nation, not just in the United States of America. If you look at the women that are in positions of leadership, many of them are not feminine. They look like men, right? And I am not saying this to be funny or disrespectful. What I am saying is, these are the things I question as to why is it that women who are not feminine are the only women that are being allowed to have positions of leadership? What about those of us who are sensual and feminine, who are still strict, who still have righteousness, who still have great leadership abilities, who can rule a nation, run a nation? What about those of us who are in that category? I don't think that we have a good, a balanced, we don't have balanced representations of women in leadership. And that speaks to exactly what I'm talking about today, right? Women, women, this competition that women are always in with other women will lead them to gatekeep positions and keep desirable women out of leadership positions, because in these women's mind they think that they're losing at certain things in life. They don't understand that we all lose at certain things in life. We all don't win at everything in life. But as far as the likability and the beauty pageant aspect of life, they don't like that they lose, because beauty is considered as currency, right? So we all know the more money or the more currency you have, the wealthier you are. So in their minds, they don't have certain wealth that they think other women have. So positions of leadership will be gatekept, and it is only going to be opened for those women who think that they're not desirable, or the women who don't have voluptuous shapes. Pay attention, just pay attention. Why can't we be sensual and be righteous and have great resolve for our country or for this nation? We can, and those of us do, we do, but society don't get to see that. So what it appears to be is that the women who are considered to be uniquely beautiful or universally beautiful, society will think that these women are stupid, right? They don't have the bandwidth to lead to that capacity, and that is not true. That is not true. So we're putting out false images based on likability politics, right? So that's another reason why a matriarchal system cannot work, right? Another reason why a matriarchal system cannot work is that women don't respect, tolerate, or support righteous women who are universally desirable. Simply put, and that goes back to some of the things that I've mentioned earlier. It's an automatic thing. It's something that is built in with women, that once they see what you look like, although you have great leadership qualities, they are automatically vying against you. It is an unspoken rule that has happened since the beginning of time, and it continues to happen. Um, when women are threatened by another woman's presence, this is another thing. Women like to do what they want to do and not be held accountable. They will disrespect other women and laugh, oh, but you're disrespecting another woman. When we're talking and you come over and you're nice and you have a smile on your face, but you're passive aggressive, and your tactic is to over talk or talk over the woman that's already speaking. But you do it in a way that that woman doesn't realize that you just played a hand to dominate the conversation while she was talking, right? These are the types of things that women do. It's a lot of passive aggressive things, and a lot of plays, a lot of tactics, and simple war tactics that doesn't need to be, only because you think that this woman is gaining some type of attention that you don't have. And a lot of this is because you want to be seen by men, right? And I'm not saying that, I'm a woman, so I love men, right? And it is nice to be seen by men. However, I have yet to come across a group of women who, and I say a group, right? A group, not one or two, but if there's a group of women, there may only be two of us that are actually serious about what we're talking about, and not looking to be for the male gaze, not looking at men to see who's looking at me and who's looking at who, right? Most women are doing what they do because they're trying to gain the attention of men. So, in that, they're not serious about too much of anything. And the woman who is serious, they have a problem with her, because that woman is already gaining the attention of men. Now, when she is deemed to be intelligent or someone that a man real thinks that they can collaborate with, that woman gains a different level of respect. So oftentimes women want to try to hide her, ensure that she is not seen, right? So in that, because women play these types of politics, you leave a lot of room for remedial structures, remedial rules and regulations, because you don't have the thought process to think about it all. All of you can't think about it all, right? So, and I say this to say, God created all of us are here, right? So that means that we're living in this world, we have perspective, and we have resolve for this perspective. And if you're not taking in account what everyone is saying, including the people that you may not like, you are not going to have a holistic picture. You're not going to create resolve holistically. It will it will predominantly be for the things that you and the people that align with you are focused on. And that has already been happening in the patriarchal system. We don't need to create another system that's going to create that same type of mentality, an exchange of hands, which means an exchange of sex. Instead of men doing it, it's women that will be doing it, right? Um, one, hold on, right. So now, what I think that society needs is a system that centers community, a community centered system. Center the well being of community, center the well being of children. Because that's another thing, right? These systems that are in play now do not center the well being of children or community. Children are abused at alarming numbers, and we're not mad enough. And children are also abused in homes where of women who are insecure, especially girls. And we're not mad enough because these are the things that are not spoken about enough. And women are not held accountable enough. Also, women don't want to be held accountable for what they do. If you speak about the things that women do, you will be considered to be an enemy. You will be considered to be an enemy. At least with men, you can speak about the things that men do, and they don't consider you an enemy. It's either they have that conversation, or they don't converse about it at all because they feel like they're going to continue to do it and no one's going to stop them. But they don't consider you an enemy for speaking about what they do. But with whereas women is concerned, you are an enemy anytime you hold women accountable. And that is a problem, because if you cannot be corrected, then you can't stand corrected. If you can't take correction, then you can't be a great leader, right? Women are not humble enough, or let's say measured enough, to be corrected. There's a lot of tit for tat because there's always a competitive mentality where they think they're in a secret competition with other women. So there's always a tit for tat, and this tit for tat is only to win and dominate conversations. But I don't see where women are actually learning what the lesson is, right? Now, if you're doing tit for tat, but you're still learning the lesson, then I can say, well, next time things will be different. You will create a better solution moving forward, right? I've seen here in Newark, New Jersey, where women, and I've been through this. I have a great program, but women will say, "Oh yeah, the kids don't connect." Anytime I run the program, the kids are engaging. There's no child in the classroom that is not engaged, but the woman will say that they're not engaged. You know why? Because the woman doesn't want the kids to be engaged, because women do not like structure. And a woman that represents structure is going to be vied against. So women will even lie and say that the children are not engaged. No, you are not engaged. You are uncomfortable when you hear this program, because oftentimes they feel like the program is highlighting some of their behaviors, right? How often or how many times do children go through a great program in school and they go home to try to implement what they learned, only for their mother to say, this is my house. You're not going to, you do what I tell you to do in this house. They don't have the intelligence or even care to say, well, they're learning a new thing to be improved human beings in the world. Let's see what they've learned in school. It's automatically on what you're going to do in this house. So how will our children learn to be better when they continue to go home to a woman who's disgruntled and who doesn't care about upward mobility, who tells you that you do what I tell you to do in this house, and operate with such ignorance that the child is unable to continually practice what they're learning, right? So women go through great lengths to shut down upward mobility. If it's crazy, right? Because it's to the point where the main thought process is centered around sex and men. Meanwhile, you would think that they would be doing great in that department. You're still not doing great in that department because you don't know women well enough and you don't understand men well enough, right? It is, women have the same basic conversations about men. That tells me that you don't understand men because you don't stop to have intellectual conversations. That's another thing. Women don't have the patience for intellectual conversations. They don't have time for it. Unless you're talking about a Birkin bag or some new heels or a new hairstyle, how you got your nails done. Everything is about a perception and about a look. And these are the types of things that they want to talk about. And none of that is leadership qualities, right? But the woman who represents intellect, who have leadership qualities, who talks about things that is going on in the world, that is the very same woman that is being gatekept and shut down and vied out of positions of leadership. And then what they do is support the very woman who think like them and put women like that in positions of leadership. And then they try to cheat. Everybody pile into this woman with information and research, and oftentimes they are stealing ideas from other women who are actual leaders to be the bobblehead in these positions. But they're really not that. So that is not going to work for our society. Like I said previously, a community centered type of leadership and system is what we need to put into place. Now, some of you may question, well, if we put, one second, I'm drinking my water. Now, some of you may question, if you implement community centered system, how do you know that it's not going to be ran by the very same type of people that we're talking about, right? That's a great question. So if we're centering community, then we also need to be vying and checking for people's character. That's it. Vying and checking for character. What kind of person is this? Not someone who lip profess what they do, right? Many of these people that are in positions of leadership now will post positive things on social media, the Facebook pages. But when you hang around them, you see them participating in smear campaigns. They're the ones who actually initiate the smear campaigns. They're the ones that you can clearly see. They're pointing fingers and letting people know, this person, that chick right there, keep her out. You see them doing things like that where they're not inclusive, they're exclusive. And the person that they're excluding is the very same person that fits the description of universal beauty or universally unique, right? And they try to shut down conversations, talk bad about that person so you don't talk to that person. But anytime you have the opportunity to have a conversation with that person, you don't see anything wrong with that person. You see this person to be highly intelligent and aware about what's going on in the world. But let the other person, the other type of woman, tell it that this person, you need to stay away from that person, right? So those are the things that we need to be looking for. And I know they'll watch videos like this and then they'll try to improve on how they do things, but you can't only improve but so much. When we're talking about putting people in positions of leadership, this is not a race, right? We have all the time in the world. So you also, that also means that we have time to study people, right? Um, the other thing is this: we tend to look at, if you haven't had any leadership training. Listen, leadership, a lot of us are natural born leaders. A lot of us are born with leadership qualities. Many of us have had childhood and lifestyles where we have had to be leaders. So a person can have no leadership like background as far as having gone to a leadership course, and can be trained on how to be a leader, right? So I think the other thing, we focus on things, we what's the quote, we major in the minor and we minor in the majors. You get it. We put way too much focus on minor things and way too little focus on major things. The major thing is whether or not the person have the bandwidth to have integrity, lead with some compassion, and know when to be strict, know how to make decisions, know not to let their empathy be the death of their leadership. Right? These are some of the things that we need to be focused on. The other thing is thinking that people with empathy can't make good leaders because they're too soft. Now you have some people with empathy that are too soft, right? And they are absolutely cannot be leaders. We understand that. But then there are people like myself, such as myself. I have empathy and compassion and I am not too soft, right? I have been in positions of leadership where I will not hesitate after we've trained a person, after giving a person a pip, or after watching what a person does on the job. I will not hesitate to say, okay, it is time for you, that we have to let you go. And I'm going to sleep well at night. You know why? Because they've been given opportunities, right? So that's the difference. When you give someone the opportunity to improve themselves and they still don't improve, I can sleep well at night when I hand you that pink slip to say that you're no longer beneficial to this company, right? So that's the other thing. We think on a scale of polarity. You're either black or white. And I say again, God created, we have so many different colors. There's 50 shades of gray, right? Not only 50 shades of gray, there are 50 shades of all colors, right? What about the temperature? You have freezing cold, and then you have cold. You have different degrees. Everything is in degrees. So with nature, we understand that things are in degrees and we have different shades of a thing. But when it comes to human beings, we see them in polarity. If you're not black, you're white. Well, let's skip away from that, because all right. But as far as personality is concerned, if you have empathy, you won't be sharp when the time comes to let a person go, or you're incapable of being strict, or you're incapable of having structure. That's not true. That's not true. There are many people, there are billions of people in this world. And in there being billions of people in this world, there are hundreds of millions of people who have a great mix of it all. They have compassion, they have empathy, they're structured, they're strict, they know when to do a thing, and they can sleep well at night. They can turn over numbers, right? So this idea that empathy do not do well in business is wrong, right? And this, I believe, is something that has been spoken by people with antisocial personality disorders. And because they're so sharp, they have the gift of gab, and they're not the only ones that have the gift of gab. There's a great mix of us who have a great mixture of everything, right? We have a great balance of it all, and then we improve of that. In that, we don't lean on one thing, one or the other, right? So what's most important is that we have to learn how to wean away from putting the wrong people in positions of leadership. That's it, right? People abuse their positions of power, and many of these things are done for only for personal reasons, for them to satisfy their personal ego. What does that do for society? Right? So why is it that we're putting people in positions of leadership that has to have their personal egos stroked? That creates nothing but destruction for people and families. Right? So those are the things that we should be looking at. And that's why a matriarchal system won't work. Right? Again, when we center the community and we center the well-being of children, that takes the focus off of the individuals that are in positions of leadership, because the focus becomes outward. The focus becomes about the community. How are the schools running? How are the neighborhoods doing? How is the community doing? How are things when somebody just go to their local corner store? How is that energy? Some people have problems going to their corner store, right? If you have problems going to the corner store, then that also says that the community is not doing well. The community is not doing well, right? So when we take the focus off of the individuals that are in positions of leadership and we put the focus where it needs to be, and that's on the children and community. Now, you may question why I'm saying children, right? Well, we know the children are our future. And right now, what we've been doing is ruining our future. Right now, teachers are complaining that children cannot do the basic things. They're reading way below their grade level. Their critical thinking skills and the problem solving skills are they a lot of teachers have been talking, they're flabbergasted at what they're dealing with in these schools, and I wonder why are children's brains lethargic? Why aren't they able to problem solve in the way we did when I was a child, right? And so, and I'm not that far gone. I'm 49 years old. So we're talking about the children of today. I'm not that far ahead of them. So what happened? Right? So I'll tell you what happened. When you don't center the well-being of children and you put the focus on the people who wants to show off a Birkin bag, who wants to show off high heel shoes, a hairdo, makeup, nails. When you put the focus on these things and they're not on children in the community, this is what you get. A lot of jobs are complaining that people don't know how to work. Then on the flip side, these same companies allow workplace bullying. And the person who is bullied on the job is usually the person that is self directed, right? And someone who is self directed is a person that's a self starter, a person who has natural leadership, who don't need to be micromanaged or even have a manager watch over their work. This is a person who is well and capable of managing themselves. These are the types of employees that are bullied on the job, and these types of things are allowed to happen. This world and our society where we stand here today is a mess. It is a complete mess. And a lot of this has been happening and it has been allowed because these types of actions are done by people that have antisocial personality disorders, and they're highly insecure. These people will continue to show up to work and will not improve themselves, but will single and target out the person who constantly improves themselves at the job. They mind their business and do their best at their job, right? And these things are not spoken about enough. And so until we start to tackle and handle things like this, we cannot talk about a matriarchal system and think that the matriarchal system will work, right? And some of you might question, why am I talking about the job? Well, the job is important because when people lose their jobs, they can't feed their families, right? Right? So when a father is bullied on the job, he's now depressed and he's dealing with anxiety and or whatever emotions and thought processes he's dealing with, and then he brings that kind of energy home. The same thing with the mother, and then she brings that kind of energy home. And now what do you think will happen with the children in the household? Right? This is why I say we need a system that centers the well being of children and community. Because when we center the well being of children and community, people will think, well, if you're bullying somebody on the job, how does that affect their household and how does that affect their community? Now you'll say, well, what do you mean by that? Okay, so an angry and disgruntled person, how will they show up in their community? They may be the person arguing with somebody at the corner store because they're upset. And subconscious, it's in their subconscious about what they're dealing with on their job. They're projecting their energy and they don't realize that they're, starting trouble in their community, right? But when you think about the well being of community and children, you'll understand how a person's lifestyle and what they go through, dealing with work and everything, affects them, and how that will in turn affect their community and their household. And then we can start to reverse some of this wickedness and treachery that we've been seeing in our communities, right? And so, and women are upholders of the patriarchal system. Women deal with internalized misogyny, right? The very same things that make women tick are the things that, misogynistic men talk about and project in their community. Women don't realize it. So just saying that we need to take positions of leadership, no, no, right? Because I see it now where women history with histrionic person. Can you imagine a woman with histrionic personality disorder? These are the drama queens. Everything is about them. Oh my God. And they blow things out of proportion, right? And everything is about, oh, this guy fell in love with me. Everything is about a person, a new guy that's cute, that likes them. That's all they think about. They don't think, so they want the leadership position because they want to be seen. Until you have a conversation with them and you understand that this is a bird brain, right? But this is not somebody that should be leading a society or leading anything, right? And these personality disorders, there are no medication right now that can offset that. That's how people are wired. That's like I'm considered to have level 1 autism, right? So it's neurodivergence. There's nothing wrong with it. It just means that I have a different way of thinking, and I think different to the predominant number of my peer group. That means that if I'm in a room with 100 people, I guarantee you that maybe me and someone else will be the only one in that room that think on the same accord. 98 of them will be thinking opposite to me, right? Some people will say, well, okay, but that's not a good thing for someone like you to be in a position of leadership. Yeah, because a lot of the neurotypicals are the reasons why we have the problems that we have in society. And you cannot solve problems with the same mind that creates them. If most of the energy of your energy goes in one direction, and if your mind is hardwired to think away, you cannot reverse your mind to see the solution to your problem. It have to be someone else that don't think like you that have the solution to the problem that already exists. And the other problem in society is you have the problem makers who want to be the solutionists, the resolve. You can't do both, right? You can't do both. And that's another problem that we have, because these people they need supply and they need to be seen and they need energy. So they're going to put themselves in positions to be seen and gain all the attention. Everything for them is about attention. So they don't think about we need to be improving our society. They just want to be in positions to have attention, right? So there's too much of that. How many, and so many of you may question what I mean by that. How many of you have seen a person who's a bully, who's a known antagonist? Everyone, this person to be an antagonist. The moment that same antagonist tells the world it's not cool to bully, everybody will rally behind and support that person. I can't understand that for the life of me. Why are you rallying and supporting the person that you known to be the antagonist and the bully? What about the person that's not the bully, who's been saying that bullying is not cool? You don't support that person. You support the person who is the bully, who turns around and tell you that bullying is not cool. So society has been groomed to keep giving attention and rallying behind the problem starters and the problem creators. So everything they do people support. And there's where you vote against your own interests. You vote against your own best interest each and every time. And then you turn around and complain about why your world is the way it is. You complain about the thing, but you don't understand the role that you play in the very same results that you're seeing, right? So we really need to break ourselves down psychologically to get a better understanding of who we are, and that's self awareness. Once you have self awareness, you will gain a better understanding ideology on who should be in great positions of leadership. And you will learn that it is not the people that you've been putting in positions of leadership for all this time. You will learn that. Okay. So hopefully you guys got something out of this today. And like I said, this is why a matriarchal system won't work. Patriarchy already failed us. Matriarchy won't work. We don't need women in positions of leadership. What we need is men and women who center the well being of children and the well being of community. Decentralize the human being, centralize the community and our future, and that is the children. Until next time, peace. What am I missing? I'm missing something.